So she has a website, another website, a blog that everyone who wants to know anything, it's called SBS Diva. Anyone who wants to know anything about small business servers, if you search for that, you'll find SBS Diva. That's all the information about it. She's active on news groups. She's like, in her day job, she's a CPA in Fresno, California, and she talks, she knows a lot about CPA stuff, but in the evening, she sits down and she answers questions, and she's been doing it for years. So now, if you're a company in the small business servers, obviously, you want this hub to know about you. And in fact, Microsoft has a special program called the MVP program. Anyone here familiar with it? Where they identify these people, and they make sure these people are on their side. So Susan, among several other thousand hubs, is invited once a year to come to Redmond, Washington, and all expenses paid except for travel. They show them the latest software. They talk to them. They meet one-on-one with the actual people who write the code sometimes to really give feedback. And Microsoft, by the way, is pretty good in this stuff. I mean, people like to say bad things about Microsoft, but I have to say they do this stuff, and they've been doing it for years now, where they actually listen to what people want and they adjust it accordingly. And Susan is just one example. How do you find these hubs? Some of them will find you. One of the characteristics of hubs, especially expert hubs, is that they always want to know. And a lot of companies do a pretty poor job in listening to these people and not turning them off. You can find them by category, the example of barbers. You can spot them in the field because they tend to be more vocal, and it's not difficult to identify vocal people, especially now with blogs and so on. And you can find them through surveys, etc. What do you do with them? What do they want? By far, the one thing they want more than anything else, they want to know stuff before other people. So you want to give them early access to information. The last point here, in terms of ways to create buzz, as I said, for 10 years I was VP marketing for a small software company, and most of our customers heard about us by word of mouth. And there is no doubt in my mind that the number one reason for why we got so much buzz was the customer experience itself. That we really had software that people loved to use. This is the foundation. The reason why we had such good software is, it's such a cliche to say we listened to our customers, but we really did. And we constantly implemented changes. We had beta testers who constantly told us what they want, and we constantly improved the software according to what they wanted. A company that does even a better job than we did is Intuit, with TurboTax or QuickBooks, through their communities, online communities, through their Follow Me Home. Are you familiar with the Follow Me Home method? So Intuit actually follows people home, and they agree to, of course, customers. And developers sit next to the guy who just bought QuickBooks and installed it for the first time. This is the type of stuff that creates an experience that then people really like and talk about. And so many times I do stuff on the web that I say, I wish they did this type of method where they actually saw me, hear how confused I am, and if the actual person who developed this would sit here next to me, I bet my experience would have been better. So that's the last concept in improving word of mouth. I want to quickly mention ethical issues. I just want to make sure everyone understands that all the methods I'm talking about should be implemented with absolute disclosure. So we're not talking about, doing stuff, tricking customers to think that we are customers and spreading word on news groups, pretending that we are customers. We're talking about openly and with full transparency, inviting people to try the product and then talk about them and say whatever they want. I'm sure you know about WOMA, the Word of Mouth Marketing Association. They created the ethics code, which is probably not perfect, but it's a start for discussing these issues. And I invite everyone to go to woma.org and read a little bit about this. It's definitely an important concept. The last person that I'll mention here is actually the first person that I went to meet back in '98 when I decided to write the first book, and that is Everett Rogers. And Everett Rogers, I'm sure some of you are familiar with him. He wrote a very influential book called Diffusion of Innovation back in 1961. So this goes back, more than 50 years, because some people also did research on this topic before him. And my point here is, people talk about social media and we have all this new stuff. Word of mouth is not a new phenomenon, obviously. It was invented along with the mouse. And we really have to remember that there is a long tradition of research in this field that we're building upon. The other reason why I like to end with Everett Rogers. Everett Rogers really dedicated his life, as you can see, he passed away in 2004. He dedicated his life to using these communication methods to promoting positive social change. He wrote about diffusion of technical innovation in developing countries. He wrote about fighting AIDS using these communication methods. And I honestly believe and hope that we will use it for similar purposes to promote stuff that is positive and good. Thank you very much.
If there's a couple of questions now, and then Emmanuel's going to be relocating outside. Yes, ma'am.
When you showed the Lance Armstrong band, it reminded me that so many, particularly not-for-profits, they see a good idea that somebody else used and then use it to death.
Exactly, yeah.
In life, there's a walk for every part of the body, there's a
Yeah.
wristband for every,
Excellent point. I think that's a very good point. I'm glad you mentioned it. People talk about this stuff, but there is a limit. People talk about new stuff. So somebody just did a very successful promotion on Twitter. Did you see that? Where for this web company, everybody is talking about the following company that will do it. Obviously, people will talk about it less and less and less. Yeah. How to deal with negative buzz. Okay, I can say I'm not an expert on this, but I can say in general, first of all, negative buzz will be there whether you do this stuff or not. So it's related more to the actual product experience. My inclination is always to tell companies first, if you get negative buzz, first of all, look inward. What's wrong? What is that person saying? Maybe we did something wrong. And a lot of times, that may suggest that something was wrong. So if you can fix what's broken and come back to that customer, that's very well known that it's a great way to create a relationship with that customer and spread positive buzz. So the first thing is to look inward. The other thing is that if you do this stuff over years and you have the hubs on your side, you have people who support you, they may come to your and help you actually. And sometimes negative buzz can reactivate or activate some people who are actually pretty happy. They just never thought of talking about this. So companies tend to freak out whenever anyone says anything negative. I guess we all do, and we're all sensitive. But negative buzz is not necessarily that terrible. So it can actually lead to some positive stuff. And if we get into the whole area of crisis management and so on, I'm really not an expert on this, but my general inclination would be to say to people, first of all, look what's wrong, try to fix it, and then talk to people openly and honestly about what's going on. People are amazingly forgiving when you just say, we were wrong, here is what we did to fix it.